Dorothy Gilbert is the author most recently of Foxwoman, a collection of original poems published by Rivertown Poets Publishing in 2020. A medieval scholar, she has also published 2 award-winning books, verse translations from Old French, Marie de France, Poetry, a Norton Critical Edition, and the award-winning Erec and Enid by Chrétien de Troyes, University of California Press, the first known Arthurian romance. Dorothy's original poetry has appeared in The New Yorker, The Nation, the Iowa Review, and other print journals, and also in the online journals Tattoo Highway and Persimmon Tree. Before retiring, Dorothy taught writing and literature in the UC Berkeley Fall Program for freshmen and creative writing and literature at UC Davis and other places. She was on the staff of PEN, the Writers' Advocacy Organization, for many years. She lives in San Francisco Bay Area, where she's active in environmental issues, especially the preservation of the natural shore. Please put your hands together for Dorothy Gilbert.
Thank you so much for coming. And Sandy, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very flattered and honored. I've been to these readings before and thoroughly enjoyed them. And I think it's lovely to be included as one of your readers. I'm going to read mostly from Foxwoman, this book I published during the pandemic in 2020. But first, I'm going to read on a subject that I think is very familiar to us all. And I think, I think that you'll enjoy it if I make fun of it a little. This is called The Zoom Sestina. Can you hear me all right? Am I coming through clear? A sestina, as many of you know, it's a fairly long poem, 6.5 stanzas of 6 lines. And throughout the whole poem, the same words that are the ends of lines are used, but they vary in different set patterns throughout the poem. And so there's a kind of kaleidoscopic effect. So the Zoom Sestina. What will we miss when we are free of Zooms? The long excursions in each other's homes, their rumpled studies, tidy living rooms, seeing them in their own created spaces. And we ourselves need not go out at all, just sit and contemplate these other faces. And how intensely now we know these faces, enclosed as we all are, boxed in these Zooms. Oh, what a fascination for us all, studying our friends who sit there in their homes. Would you have known Joe'd have such classy spaces? Or Joan's grab pad become such glowing rooms? But also, as we gaze into these rooms, are we preoccupied with our own faces? While we negotiate with other spaces, are we distracted? Do we, in these Zooms, relish ourselves and stray from others' homes? Mirror, who is the fairest of us all? Who is the wisest mirror of us all? Who speaks out fair and just out of their rooms, astutely reads the faces in those homes? It's a new thing, talking to people's faces, to face one's own face too, as in these Zooms, and form a bond with all in small, square spaces. What do we give away though in those spaces? God, was I dozing? Did it show it all? Or are we posing sometimes in our Zooms, self-conscious in this gallery of rooms, aware of how we sit, arrange our faces, obsessed with how these others see our homes? But here's a joy. We travel, visit homes of friends, kin, colleagues in their spaces. We're welcomed or accepted, face their faces. Honestly, won't you miss that part at all? Singapore, Florence, Graz, Detroit, these rooms so quickly found. Let's hear it for the Zooms. Sequestered in our homes, as are we all, making our spaces, speaking from our rooms, at least with faces, courtesy of Zooms. All right, so Foxwoman, and I've always been a nature person, and one of my satisfactions as such is that I had a dear friend who lived for many years in Yosemite, inside the park, and raised her two sons there. And I used to go and visit her. Sometimes I would always spend some time with her, but sometimes she would invite me to come and take care of her cat and dog and her household. And while she went on a trip or a long camping trip or something like that. And then I would work on my poetry and my writing, and I would look out at the ponderosas and the incense cedars and all the beautiful things there, and write. So I want to dedicate the next 2 or 3 short poems to her. Anne Abbott. She died a few weeks ago, and she was almost exactly my age. She was a wonderful friend and brought me much beauty and joy up there. All right, the forest of hands. Hands of the black oak, playing the light. Hands of the ponderosa, a brush for the wind's voice. Hands of cedar froth and alder feather. Hands of cones, hands of cones, fat-fingered, sugar and pitch-fingered, thin and brittle, broken-fingered, ham-handed sugar pine cones, 2 feet long, tight-fisted cones, fists full of berries, old thistle fists, grassy hands, fists full of seeds, long blue lupin hands testing the air. Under the earth, old hands in pieces, bones in the dark dirt. The next one is called Crane Creek, Foresta. Foresta was the little settlement where my friend Anne lived. It's a little village that used to, in times past, be outside Yosemite, and then the park swallowed it. It's near Big Meadow, and Crane Creek is a little creek that comes down from Crane Flat and runs through it. And I used to swim there. The cold grasped me. The cold grasped me. It is in me. Move with me. We are a double creature contending. We keep even if I keep moving. Face down, I swim in soft amber, over sand, mica, greenish stones, black rocks, under boulders, through colder shadows. Face up, I let the current carry me under the alders' green steps, levels, plains of light. The cold loves my hair, eats my face, makes sharp edges in my blood. Face down again, I fight the current, work my shoulders, win my way to the sun. On land, I am the warm, bored victor. Wild rose hips. Did we taste them? They are half the size of my little fingernail, shrunken, deep orange, lantern, pumpkin. Put one on your tongue. It tastes of tangerine, apricot, of something else, who knows what, peach, that fades just as the mind grasps it. Something stored all summer in what you thought dead flesh, orange taste to the 50th mathematical power, God gift. So this is ambrosia. For a second, less, slow human sense knows it. Then it's gone. Change of mood now. I'm going to read a poem called The Campfire. Campfire as in the burning of Paradise, the town of Paradise in 2018. the campfire. If you breathe, whose dust are you breathing? Whose house, garden, artwork done 20 years, photos, recipes, paintings, trophies, books? Surely they exist somewhere. They linger just above the ground beside a tombstone chimney. If you're faithful, you'll see them. Keep on, keep trying. 200 miles away, going to work in the smoke, you only wonder. Who now, with their keys to a vanished house and a charred wallet, must make a house around them? Who was trapped in a car? Who lived to be 92, then exploded, oxygen tank and all? If you don't breathe, in your keyless house of air, are you there still with your books and your photos on the ash wall? Now I will read the title poem, Fox Woman. I've always been greatly intrigued by changeling figures, legendary or mythic figures that were human some of the time and animal some of the time. Werewolves are interesting. They can be very formidable and violent, but I know of at least one good one in my work with Marie de France, a medieval writer. I also am intrigued by the seal women. They are seals some of the time, and they're women some of the time. They're Irish and also Icelandic. And then in Japan, the fox is a changeling creature, an important one. As in the West, the fox is a trickster figure. That's very European medieval too. But the note in my book for this poem, title poem, says the fox, or kitsune, is an important figure in Japanese folklore and culture, as in European culture, a trickster figure. Brendan Jordan, a scholar, remarks, one of kitsune's favorite transformations is into a woman. This is often done for a trickster purpose, to make fun of a man, to frighten him, or even to seduce him. At other times, the motive is gratitude. And someone else says, the kitsune bee, it's foxfire, is the term for a light made by foxes to lead a man astray from the road on which he is traveling, to hypnotize him, seduce him, or entice him by shape changes into danger. So, Foxwoman, thoughts on Two Prints by Yoshitoshi and Hiroshiga, 19th century Japanese artist. She turns away. Her little boy, his hand on the brown train of her kimono, stares at her comfortable back, her swirling garment, his face all trust. No shadows there, no knowledge. Stay, he says, play. In that warm room of trunks and screens, rectangles, floral silks, with only a tumbling vine to hint at vagary in nature. How's he to know life's to be one goodbye after another? Here she has lived all these years in this house with this husband, a human being. He rescued her, a vixen. Her young fur sheen caught the eye of hunters in dead orange grasses. She led them, looped them, did her best to busy them, but they wore her down, closed in. Suddenly, he rode up, scattered them all, scooped her to his saddle. Shaking, weak with gratitude, she turned into a woman. That was the real ambush. Oh, he was stunned by her beauty, but not for long. A quick man with his instincts, he knew her gift. At home, he gave her silks, paintings, even a small dog and a koto. She learned to play brilliantly. The notes hung like fruit above their heads. He'd praise her, tell her stories of human history, wars, treacheries, honor beyond death. He'd guess her thought and praise it. touching her shoulder. A pair of hunting spirits, they started thoughts from the mind's dim thickets, together sensing paths, traces. He stroked her hair, her stomach. She leaped. One animal, they spoke the speech. In that space, that den of themselves they'd hollowed out of nothing, what were names, labels, captor and captive? Years passed. The sun grew, walked. What whiff woke her? Swamp spring, perhaps. Newborns, damp fur, the salt of it. Sweet earth, sweet grass. Traces of sex, dusty or fresh. Odors of the movement of blood, the pulse of fear in the doomed. Fox barks in the swamps, the phosphorescence of her kind, the nights, the reeds, the crying. The part of her still in the room is woman, robe, obi, hair dressed in splendid loops. Past the threshold, her face is lost to us. Behind a screen, her profile shadow lengthens, strangely proportioned. Fox nose, fox ears, fox leg and paw. She goes to Kitsune Bee, the glow in the night meadow. The foxes all communal, casting their fatal light, luring a man from his safe way on the road to town, drawing him into the marches of longing and terror, and, of course, lost. This is about a cat I used to have called Kate, and at a fairly young age, alas, she developed kidney disease, but I kept her alive for many years by hydrating her, and which was not distressing to her. But here's a poem about that. How to hydrate Kate. It's easy. The vet shows you. At home, you'll use the ironing board. Hold the cat by her withers. Check the drip set one last time. Are there bubbles in the flask? Is the line clear of air? The needle sterile? Test all attachments. Check the calibrations. Then quickly plunge the needle in loose skin at her shoulder. You've got to do it for her old no-good kidneys, her dirty blood, poisoned by her body. This cat's feisty, but she won't complain. Her memory's keen of suffering and this brief ease. You've got the news on the radio. While the animal becomes a water bag, you hear what's current. Old age is wasting your generation fast. Your singers and senators crashing and fading. Eastern Europe, like a blood-soaked map, disintegrates. East Africa grinds bones to sand. In Sacramento, in Albany, on the legislature floor, they've got fistfights. Holes slowly widen in the atmosphere. Navajo miners die, young men, from the uranium we needed for the atom bomb. You stand there listening, saving a cat's life. You've finished. You free her. Already her fluids settle. For now, you've washed away the viciousness determined to have. I might read one actually about New York, which used to be my home city, beloved city, but this is about 9/11, the days after. And, you know, there were bulletin boards where people posted their names and phone numbers and so forth in case their missing loved ones showed up. I am looking for my fiancée, a small woman who wore a slate-colored suit this morning, who has dark ringlets down to her shoulders. She is my future. She's 5'1", brown eyes, 102. Here's my number. Please let me know. I am looking for my husband of 30 years. If you see him, he's hard to miss. He's big, 6'2", 220 pounds, wore a red tie this morning. Doesn't look 60. Not much help, I know, but the photo, he's distinctive, isn't he? Isn't he? I'm looking for my sister, stepdaughter, father-in-law, cousin, office mate for the past 6 years. I stayed home with a cold. I'm looking for everyone, My backpacking friend from the Cullens on Skye in 1982, my lawyer's nice niece, the jazz singer, my doctor's favorite aunt. Where is Cecil the sandwich maker down on the ground floor? Where are Paula and Prithen up on the 97? Where's Layla, our receptionist, the belly dancer, so graceful she's hardly human? I am looking for love. I'm looking for the punchline of a joke. I'll remember the sound of my brother's voice as long as I know the joke. I'm looking for the skyline. I'm looking at thick air, and the terrible powder. Okay, one last one. Cyclist. As a girl, once or twice I thought, how do I know I'm me, a child? What if really I'm at the other end of life, an old woman, judgment gone, who thinks she's a girl on a bike in the wind, who wings up a steep slope almost without effort and down again, singing, her strong breath taking in, pushing out the breath of the world. But really, she can't get out of her chair without a hand up. Now I'm an old woman. I know that much. Or do I? What if I'm a girl on a bike, winging through the countryside, working her strong legs, loving her subtle balance, her breathing, looking, singing, thinking for a moment, what if I'm an old woman? Would it be so bad? She sings to the fields, the same song over and over to catch the first joy, go deep inside it. She plans her life, a chanteuse surrounded by her adoring band. Her lover on bass looks over and blows her a kiss she can see just out of the corner of her eye. Her voice, a slender waterfall, curls down in white spirals. Thank you very much.